Season 1 of The War Within continues, and the hype around Mistweaver keeps on growing, and so does my score. Slightly, at least. In the process of timing my 12s, I collected a few tips and tricks to hopefully help you understanding the spec a little bit more and maybe even learning something new. If you enjoy your time here, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel. It really does make my day. Alright, so let's begin. Tip number 1 is learn how to use your diffused magic. So this skill right here reads Diffuse Magic. Reduces magic damage you take by 60% for 6 seconds and transfer all currently active harmful magical effects on your back to their original caster if possible. Okay, this skill is extremely powerful and it's not a very common skill, but basically what it does is that if you are targeted by something, say for instance the cocoon dot that you get on the ships on Dawnbreaker, right? You can cast Diffuse Magic, and it takes away the dot from you, and it doesn't explode at the end of the duration of the debuff. Just like that one, there are many different buffs that you can just diffuse and save your ass in a million different situations. So this is a very powerful skill, and it looks like this. Now, the real tip here is open your Google Chrome or whatever browser you use, you go to waaaay.io, and then you look for this weak aura right here, Diffuse Magic, Reflectable Debuff. What this does, basically, it helps you by either playing a text-to-speech or giving you a visual indication depending on the setting, understanding which buff you can reflect and in which situation your Diffuse Magic is helpful. And additionally, also, it works as a reminder. It's very similar to the Shadow Meld weak aura that tells you when and what you can Shadow Meld, right? So very useful, golden level tip if you ask me. The second tip, again, a very simple one, is gonna go hand in hand with the previous one, and it is read and understand your dispel. So if you open your spellbook and you go to detox, it reads removes all magic, poison and disease effect from the target. That is due to you taking this talent right here that says detox additionally removes all poison and disease effect. So as you can see, for instance, it doesn't have curses and it doesn't have bleeds. So in those situations you gotta be very careful because this dispel is not gonna be enough. Additionally, you also need to understand the difference between your Revival and Restoral. So Revival says, heals all party and raid members within 40 yards for 1.1 million and clears them of 3 harmful magic, all poisons, and all disease effects, healing reduced beyond 5 targets. Alright, so if you go to Restoral, it says, healing all party and raid members within 40 yards for 1.1 million, so the same as the previous one, and clears them all of whole harmful poison and disease effects. So you see that the missing part is the 3 harmful magic. But in exchange for that, Restoral allows you to cast it while you're stunned, right? So there is a slight difference there, and depending on the situation, one or the other might be very helpful. Alright, so tip number 3 is understand how to properly use your Expel Harm. Alright, so this skill right here, Expel Harm, reads expel negative chi from your body, healing 700,029 and so on and so forth, and dealing 25% of that amount healed as natural damage to an enemy within 20 yards. Right, so this skill right here basically works this way. When you take a little bit of damage, as you can see on my bar here, if you cast it, what it does is that it recovers a little bit of health, as you saw right there. Now, it's a very intuitive skill with a very low cooldown, it's only 15 seconds, but there are a few things you need to understand to properly use this skill. So first of all, and that's the real downside of this skill, it takes away one of your GCD. So in situations where you have to only heal yourself, it's a great skill, but in situations where you are also trying to, I don't know, survive rob damage or keep the rest of your party alive, you have to be careful. The other element, and potentially an aggravating element, is that for it to be properly effective, you have to cast Renewing Mist on yourself as well. So just take a look at this. If I take a little bit of damage and my Renewing Mist is up, as you can see right here, if I use my Expel Harm, the amount healed is substantially higher, like noticeably higher. But again, that requires 2 GCD, one to cast Renewing Mist and another one to cast your Expel Harm. A clear example, a classic example that I usually give is the curse that you get in Grim Battle, the one that takes away, that puts an healing absorb on you, a ginormous healing absorb. Whenever I'm facing those packs and I know that the healing absorb is coming, I always try to make sure that everyone has a renewing mist on. So whenever someone, well, in this case, whenever I get the debuff on myself, I can just Expel Harm and heal most of it and just sort of like forget about it, the remaining part at least. The other important thing that you have to know about the Expel Harm is that even if it's niche and not really used, you can use your Thunder Focus Tea to empower the fact of your Expel Harm. If you read right here, it says Expel Harm. It transfers 25% additional healing into damage, and it creates a chi cocoon absorbing about 1 million damage. That might be very relevant in situations and in realities in which, I don't know, for instance, you are trying to rotate your defensives and you find yourself out of defensive. Like you used your Diffuse magic, you used your Fortifying Brew, and now a big hit is coming and you don't know how to live it. Well, you can just, let me show you. You can just Thunder Focus Tea and cast it, right? And then, just before the big damage comes, you can, boom, Expel Harm and have the healing effect, plus a big shield on yourself, and that will help you surviving the big hit. Alright, for tip number 4, I'm gonna give you something that might sound stupid at first, but it's really not, so please bear with me for a second. Alright, so one of the most important skills for Mistweavers is your Vivify. Vivify is a very simple skill that is part of your tree, or your baseline, rather of your baseline skills, that is greatly empowered by the Mistweaver class talent tree. If you just type Vivify into your talent book, basically, it shows a ton of different skills that are empowering the effect of your Vivify. So Soothing Mist just basically lets you cast Vivify instantly without the casting time. Very helpful, but also sort of like common knowledge, obviously. This one right here is also known, but it's also worth to remind you to always use your free, your instant rather, Vivify, because it's not only it's instant, but it also heals for 20% more. But then if you go into your class tree, it shows something more interesting in my opinion. So Invigorating Mist says Vivify heals all allies with your Renewing Mist active, and it's reduced beyond 5 allies. Basically, it means that whenever you're healing with your Vivify, part of the heal is cleaved onto your allies. Then, if you go right here, it says Zen Pulse. Renewing Mist heal over time has a chance to cause your next Vivify to also trigger a Zen Pulse on its target and allies with Renewing Mist, healing them for something and increased by 6% per Renewing Mist active up to 30%. What this means is that if you make sure that all your party has your Renewing Mist up, there is a chance that each of these Renewing Mist will trigger a Zen Pulse, and the effect of this Zen Pulse will be increased depending on the number of Renewing Mist that are active on your party, up to 30%. So basically what this is, it's a passive effect, healing effect and healing over time effect, that you can trigger by applying your Renewing Mist and casting your Vivify. If you take a look at this talent right here, Deep Clarity, it says, after you fully consume Thunder Focus Tea, your next Vivify triggers a Zen Pulse, meaning that you are 100% sure that you will trigger a Zen Pulse when the Thunder Focus Tea effect draws off. Additionally, and this is also very important because this is basically one of the most important reasons why we do play Conduit of the Celestials in some situation, is that the whole tree helps you empowering the effect of your Vivify too. Okay, so this talent right here, Temple Training, which I'm currently debating on which one I'd rather use, if I want to use Swan Guidance or Temple Training. But anyway, Temple Training increase the effectiveness of your Vivify by an extra 6%, flat. Then there is this talent right here that reads, Tiger Palm and Vivify have a chance to cause Xu to claw a nearby enemy for a little bit of damage, and healing a nearby ally for twice as much, 200% of the damage done. Invoke Yulon, the Jade Serpent, or invoke Chi-Ji, the Red Crane, guarantees your next cast activates the effect. Which basically means, again, it's a passive it's a passive healing that improves the effectiveness of your Vivify. Then, if you go down the line of Conduit of the Celestial, you find yourself this talent right here that says August Dynasty. Casting Jade Firestomp increases the damage or healing of your next Rising Sun Kick by 30% or Vivify by 50%. Now, in many different cases, you might consider the idea of just using your Rising Sun Kick for two reasons. First of all, because a little bit of extra damage is always welcomed. But secondly, is because that damage is still gonna get converted into healing. So during your maintenance rotation, it can just be nice for you to cast your Rising Sun Kick and have it work a little extra due to the effect of this August Dynasty. But in many other situations, knowing that you can cast your Jade Firestomp, cast a few Renewing Mist here and there, and be ready to slam a big instant Vivify on your team, and Juicy because of Vivacious Vivification that gives you an extra 20%, but also because of the August Dynasty, and having its effect cleaved on your team thanks to Renewing Mist, it's going to have a huge impact on your team, and maybe it's going to help you keep up with the amount of damage. This is a very underlooked aspect of the kit of Mistweaver Monks, due to the fact that we have access to stuff like Shalen's Gift or Celestial Conduit, which are very effective healing cooldown, right? So we tend to sort of believe that Mistweaver Monks can only do two things. Either they go into a maintenance rotation, and so they just Mistweave, they Fist Weave, basically, or they access their cooldown, and that's it. So either go in one direction or the other. But all the utility that you have through your Renewing Mist, Enveloping Mist, your Vivifies, and your Soothing Mist is actually pretty damn effective, and it's very important for you to know that it's there and how to properly leverage it. Okay, so tip 5 is understanding the purpose of your Chi Burst. So Chi Burst reads, hurls a torrent of Chi energy up to 40 yards forward, dealing a bit of damage, nature damage, to all enemies and healing to the monk and all the allies in its path. Healing and damage reduced beyond 5 targets. Alright, so this skill, it's a very simple skill, and it basically throws this ball in front of you, and all the enemies and the allies that are on the path of this ball gets healed or damaged depending on whether they are allies or enemies. Every guide that you find on internet tells you one of the two things. It either tells you to cast it on pool on every pack because it does uncapped damage, or to use it to reset your Jade Firestomp. The reality is that both of them are true, and that you shouldn't just cast it because the skill is a very helpful one. But there are a few things that you need to understand. So, for instance, you know that every time that you are on your Jade Firestomp and you deal damage, that damage is converted for the duration of the effect, of the Jade Fire Teaching effect. The damage is converted into healing, and then it's split into your party members. But what you also know is that there are situations in which it's going to be hard for you to stand on your Jade Firestomp, or risky or dangerous. So what can you do? Well, the other options you have, as it reads right here, it says, after casting Jade Firestomp or Thunder Focus T, Ancient Teaching transfers an additional 160% damage to healing, and so on and so forth. So basically, it means that you find yourself in the situations in which you cannot stand on your Jade Firestomp. For instance, because, I don't know, your tank moved the boss or the pack a few yards on the left or on the right or whatever, you can access your Fist Weaving, your maintenance rotation, by just casting your Thunder Focus T. So before just panicking and start thinking, oh, I need to reset it, I need to cast my Chi Burst, you can think, do I have access to my Thunder Focus T? And then you can use your Thunder Focus T. But at the same time, you have to consider that is a chunk of your damage, and it's free healing that you can cast for basically no mana cost because it's very cheap, right? And it's almost instant as a cast. It has a cast time, but it's very small cast time, right? You can just cast it. And so you have to make this consideration, say, well, do I need it to reset it? And if you do need it to reset it, you have to make sure that you're eating your party and as many mobs as possible to have a good chance to reset your Jade Firestomp, right? But in case you don't, you can just spam it because it's damage and it's uncapped damage. So the bigger pools, as the first pool in Necrotic Wake, can actually mean quite a bit of extra damage, especially when you're running Conduit of the Celestial and you don't have access to the crazy amount of damage that you get by playing Master of Harmony. All right, for tip 6, a very simple one, yet a very powerful one, which is understanding how impactful it is to have your Chi Harmony on your teammates. Now, Chi Harmony was the effect of the previous tier set in Dragonflight that's been added to our talent tree, to our class talent tree, as it has become basically fundamental for the functioning of the class itself. And it reads, Renew and Mist increases its target healing received from you by 50% for the first 8 seconds of its duration, but cannot jump to a new target during this time. What it means is that whenever you're casting Renew and Mist on a target, that target is going to receive an extra 50% of healing just because it has Renew and Mist on itself. And that is absolutely ginormous. So a few things you need to understand are the following. Say you're about to cast a fully stacked Shalen's Gift, like a 10 stack Shalen's Gift. Now obviously that is going to work almost as a 5-man lay on hands, and you don't need to do anything extra to empower a Shalen's Gift. But say you find yourself in a situation where you don't have enough time to stack the 10 stacks for your fully empowered Shalen's Gift. Maybe you'll be able to access, I don't know, a 5 stack or a 6 stacks of your Shalen's Gift. Then making sure that everyone on the team has a fresh Renew and Mist on themselves is also gonna mean that your Shalen's Gift is gonna hit like a truck. Just because you were mindful of not having the full stack on your Shalen's Gift and you decided to leverage Chi Harmony. So Chi Harmony is a core component of your talent tree, and it must always be one of your main priorities when thinking or when laying down the cooldowns or the healings or whatever you have for a fight. So say for instance, second boss in Dawnbreaker, right? You have to heal the damage, the big slam damage coming from the orb, and then you have to be ready to face the rotting damage, the AoE damage rather, that comes from the cast of, I don't know what skill it casts. So what I usually do is that just before the Orb Slam, I try to cast my Renew and Mist on all my teammates, and then I cast my Jade Firestomp. So I combine the effectiveness of the August Dynasty, plus the effect of the Vivacious Vivification that gives me an extra 20% on my Vivify, plus a Renew and Mist effect and the Chi Harmony. And what happens is that I basically cleave heal a lot my teammate. In that position, in that situation, I can just, I don't know, like cast a max stack Blackout Kick and Rising Kick, and I have already healed my party, ready for the AoE damage when I'm gonna be able to cast one of my cooldowns, because I saved the cooldown in the previous situation by just acting and by leveraging the effectiveness of my Chi Harmony. Alright, for tip 7, we have something specific for Master of the Harmony. Alright, so Master of the Harmony gives you access to an extra resource, which is called Vitality. Dealing damage or healing will fill up this tank, this reserve of this resource, which can then be accessed by casting your Thunder Focus team. Timer starts, and this is the time that you have to cast and sort of spend this resource. This is a very common knowledge, but what people tend to do is leveraging this resource to do extra damage. Most of us, we do it by just casting our Crackling Jade Light on a pack of enemies. What a lot of Mistweaver tend to fail to do is leveraging this resource as an healing resource, right? So whenever you have stacked up your Vitality, and if you read it here, it says, store Vitality from 10% of your damage dealt and 30% of your healing. Vitality stored from overhealing is reduced. For 10 seconds after casting Thunder Focus T, your spells and abilities draw upon the stored Vitality to deal 40% additional healing over 8 seconds. Which means that if you find yourself in the position where, I don't know, you want to empower your maintenance rotation, what you can do is accessing your resource by casting your Thunder Focus team, right? And you can slam and healing on your target. That healing will heal for the amount of healing that the skill would normally do, plus an additional extra 40% coming from the Vitality that you have stored previously, and thus increasing the effectiveness of this heal. So what you can do, for instance, is, I don't know, say that a moderate damaging event is about to occur. You can cast your Chi Harmony, or rather your Renewing Mist, and have your Chi Harmony spread on your teammate, then access your Vitality and slam a powerful Vivify on your teammates, maybe leveraging your instacast through Vivacious Vivification. Again, it's a simple tip, it's not rocket science, but knowing that there is more to it, to this hero talent, rather than just spamming your Crackling Jade Light, is very important. Because sure, you can do your Crackling Jade Light if you're facing like 4 or more mobs, but in a single target rotation, see the situation that could be the second boss of a Dawnbreaker again, having access to something that empowers your baseline skills and specifically your Vivify can be life-saving. Okay, for tip number 8, I have do not underestimate the effectiveness of your Enveloping Mist. So, Enveloping Mist reads, wraps the target in Healing Mist, healing for 400k in over 7 seconds, and increasing healing received from your other spells by 40%. Applies Renewing Mist for 6 seconds to an ally within 40 yards. What this means is that, again, given certain circumstances, you can increase the effectiveness of your healing. This is very powerful in the situations in which you have to do a lot of single target healing. Another thing that you can do, though, is thinking about Enveloping Mist as a ramping tool. You can cast your Enveloping Mist on your teammate, right? And create situations in which, by just slamming a big Vivify, you would hit an empowered version on all the teammates and actually have a great impact on the team. The problem though is that just manually casting your Enveloping Mist is going to take a lot of time. It's going to cost you a lot of mana. So what can you do? Well, what you can do, you can think about your Enveloping Mist as a tool to do a few things. Say for instance, again, a Dawnbreaker, the first 2 packs, right? Where you have the debuff that goes out to 2 targets, right? Since you have a little bit of time to react, you can spend one of the charges of your Thunder Focus Tea and instacast an Enveloping Mist on, say, your tank, and then manually cast the Enveloping Mist on the other one, right? And then you Renewing Mist, and then you can slam a big Vivify on both of them. Another thing that you can do, and that you should probably do, is thinking in terms of how can I improve the effectiveness of my GG. Well, what you can do is you can cast your Jade Fire Stomp, right? And then you summon your GG right here. Then you spam your maintenance rotation. And what happens is that by doing your normal rotation, it reduces the cast time of your Enveloping Mist, and you end up casting an instant Enveloping Mist, which can be paired with an insta Enveloping Mist from your Thunder Focus Tea, or even 2 instant Enveloping Mist if you spend both the charges, which can be helpful in certain situations, especially when you're fighting a single target fight. When you're fighting a single target fight, say again the second boss of Dawnbreaker, having access to 2 insta Enveloping Mist may help you survive a lot of damaging events with just a little bit of pre-planning, right? Mistweaver Monk is not, when played in Mythic Plus, is not really a rampy class, but it still does have access to a ramp mechanic through Enveloping Mist and Renewing Mist that you should be aware of and that you should know how to leverage. It's going to be very helpful if you know how to do that properly, something that you really need to be aware of. Now, you tend to use Enveloping Mist quite a lot in raid, and what happens is that these days we tend to separate the 2 things, right? You use Enveloping Mist in raids, you don't really use it in dungeons. But especially when you're running Master of Harmony, you'll find that you are sacrificing quite a bit of healing moving from Conduit the Celestial to Master of Harmony. And so knowing how to leverage the tools you have, such as Enveloping Mist, and even the additional tools coming from Master of Harmony, so the maintenance rotation that I told you about through spending your Vitality, or having access to the 2 insta charges of Enveloping Mist through your Thunder Focus Tea, well, they can be very helpful to build up, say, a sturdier setup for an upcoming damaging event. Alright boys, this wraps it up for today. I still have quite a few tips, so I'll make sure to gather them all into another video and release it as soon as I can. But for today, I'll see you the next time. Please remember to leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all. Peace.